Hello and welcome. This is the first episode of the new year, so happy 2025 everyone. I'm gonna start the new year with everything I knit in 2024. I'm actually quite excited because I have a lot to show, but before I do, let's get some information out of the way. We can start with what I'm wearing. This is not something I've knit. This is a present from my mom. This is the Olive cardigan by Knitting for Olive, and it's knit in Knitting for Olive, I'm pretty certain. So yeah, that's out of the way. Today I have a lot of things to show. This year has been very productive when it comes to knitting. I've had a lot of knitting time because I've had a lot of home office hours, and I'm able to knit discreetly while having meetings and things like that. I wouldn't bring my knitting to work unless I'm planning on like knitting over lunch, but usually we're way too busy talking during lunch hours to actually knit anything. Also, I'm a very slow eater, so if I want to eat, I gotta actually eat. But yeah, this year I've knit 27 items, and I will come with a confession. Most of them are accessories, because I, until this year, never knit a sweater. So I'm gonna break it down. I've knit 10 hats, which are a lot. 8 of them I knit in November, December. So that's gonna be in the end. I've also knit 7 pairs of socks, which to be honest surprised me a lot, because if you have followed me during the podcast the last few months, I've been really struggling to finish a pair that didn't get finished this year at all. So the fact that I've actually knit 7 pairs are surprising to me. So yeah. I've also knit 4 t-shirts, and it's the t-shirt knitting that actually prompted me to start knitting sweaters, because I hadn't knit t-shirts before either. So during the summer it was way too hot to knit any type of accessory, even socks. So I got inspired and started knitting a lot of cotton t-shirts. Actually, I knit 4 t-shirts. 3 of them are cotton, 1 is cotton merino blend. And then I knit 3 sweaters, which was kind of surprising to me. I didn't realize I've actually knit 3 sweaters this year. I also knit 1 bamboo cardigan, and 1, I call it a singlet, but I guess perhaps a cameo or something like that is a more proper name. I don't know. English is not my first language. And I also knit 1 shawl. I was a bit surprised because quite a lot of this I thought I knit last year, but I looked through my album and saw that actually, yes, I did knit it last winter, but after Christmas, which is not so surprising because December was I was very sick during December last year, which I usually am. So I'm a bit, I should have known I didn't knit a lot last December, and therefore all my knitting during winter was actually in 2024. But yeah, I have piled most of it here, but I also have some knits on my table because that was a lot easier. I have a note here with all of the things I've actually knit, and my trusty little bullet journal with the yarn tags and most of the names of stuff. I did realize now that I was organizing to do this video that more than likely I have not tagged all of my yarn. I haven't kept all the tags, and I have to do some digging to find tags to insert into the book, because I do want to have all the tags. That's something I started this summer, that's why I don't necessarily have all the tags. So yeah, I'm gonna start at the top of my list. I'm gonna move some stuff away so it don't make too much noise. First thing I knit was a pair of socks, and I have to apologize, these are well worn. I did my best to depil them, but they are not easy to make them look good, I guess. And they are relatively loose and a bit short, but when I put them on my foot they get stretched out and therefore a bit tighter. So they're actually, this is the first pair I made that actually fit me the way I wanted to inside shoes. So yeah, these ones are made up of Filcolana Pernilla, which is not a sock yarn. They are 100% Peruvian Highland wool, but despite that they have actually well, I mean, you can see they are worn, and I have had to mend the heel, and the last time I mended the heel I didn't do the best job. So I actually haven't used the pair the past few months because I did finish a different pair that I now am obsessed with. I will talk about that later. But yeah, these are just vanilla socks. I'm pretty certain I used 64 stitches for either of them. I think this was the first pair I made with magic loop, and they just flew off the needles. I love them. I worn them almost every day for like months, just up until summer. I usually also wear woolen socks during the summer, not on the warmest days, but because they regulate the temperature of my feet better than cotton or synthetic socks. So I wear normal socks inside these ones. Or used to. I haven't worn this in a while. But yeah, I really love them. I was really surprised by the color combination, because the only reason I took these two colors was because I didn't know if I had enough of either to get a full pair. To be honest, I really underestimated, or rather overestimated, how much yarn I needed to knit a pair, because I had a lot of this yarn, but this is not my favorite color. I really do love the darker green, but this combination together, surprisingly, I love it. I love it so much I actually made a t-shirt that I will show you later in yellow and green. This is more of a like light green-ish yellow, not proper yellow. I wouldn't even call it mustard, it's more green than that. But I love this. Super soft, love them. Well worn, very warm. I wouldn't knit a new pair in the same yarn though, because there's no nylon in this, and they've been pilling like crazy. I depilled this right before filming, and to be honest, it doesn't look like I did. But yeah, that's the first thing I knit in 2024. I'm gonna put them here, that's why I have the chair. The second pair was a pair of grey socks, which this pair of socks is inspired by a photo of the color palette socks. At the point when I knit these ones, I didn't know that that was a free pattern, so I hadn't downloaded it. I just saw the pictures and went, wow, I love the texture, I want to knit something similar. And I had a lot of this grey mystery yarn. I have no idea what it is, but more than likely it's either superwash or acrylic, just for the way it feels. I did accidentally knit one of these slightly bigger than the other, which is not the biggest problem because they are quite big. I did again use 64 stitches, but this is definitely a much thicker yarn than the first one. There you can see one is definitely bigger than the other. But yeah, I probably won't knit this exact pair again, not with this wool, mostly because I don't have any more of it. The leftovers from these socks was actually used in a sweater that I'll show later. These socks are now the socks my grandfather uses when he comes over. He gets very cold feet, so he has actually gotten a different pair of socks to have at home, but in case he forgets to bring them to me, these ones are his house socks at our place. So yeah, they're very nice. I do like the twisted rib and the twisted rib stripes. which to be honest is a detail I really liked. These are the slip stitch pattern. Actually, I think perhaps halfway through this I realized the pattern was free. The color palette socks by... Oh, I know I wrote it down somewhere, but now I've forgotten. Laura Moore or something like that. At least Laura. I know it's Laura. I'm gonna add some information down in this corner as I start talking about the projects, if I have any information to give. This was before I found Ravelry. I think I just googled pair of socks with texture or something and I found the picture, and then later downloaded the pattern when I started my Ravelry. So yeah. Or perhaps I just downloaded them from Ravelry before I even had an account. I have not been very good with updating Ravelry. I have a plan that I will try and add some information to Ravelry before I go back to work, or rather start working a new job. That's a different story. Anyway, that's in the middle of January, so hopefully all the information will be up to date and as accurate as I can make it in Ravelry before the middle of January. I'm sorry, I can't promise anything else. I really do like these socks. They are very big for me. They're big for my grandpa too, but they're hat socks, so that's fine. But yeah, I have no idea what yarn this is. I probably knit them up on 3mm needles because that's my preferred needle size, which is also why they're so big. Oh well, put it this way. So that's the second project. The third project is actually a project I no longer have because I started buying some sock yarn, some hand-dyed sock yarn, early last year. I think it was in November or December at the yarn market. I finally bought my first skein of hand-dyed yarn, and so now you can see I'm a bit obsessed. And I decided to knit a pair of socks. I think I have some leftover yarn from that pair. Yeah, it's this one. I have a lot actually. Turns out these skeins are 100 gram skeins, and I did not need 100 grams to knit a pair of socks. I don't even think I needed 50 grams. The socks were 100% pink and in Mrs. Fox glitter merino, in the colorway hot pink. I think it's hot pink. Actually, I can check that. It is hot pink. And I love those socks, but they were a tiny bit big for me, so I gave them to my mom. So my mom loves pink, loves this pink. It's even brighter than this actually in real life because it's kind of washed out because of the lighting. It's like super, super pink. And yeah, she loves them. She uses them a lot. So that's the first pair I don't have, sadly. So yeah, and after that, I decided I wanted to knit a hat. So I knit this hat. It was one of the first hats I knit. I didn't do a very good job with decreasing for the crown. I just divided into, I think, 5 or 6 perhaps. No, this is actually 4. Yeah, I divided into 4 the amount of stitches I had, and then just decreased it in a straight line, which is why it lays quite nice when it's flat, but then you kind of realize it's not flat at all. It's made out of Viking Alpaca Storm, I think. Give me a moment. In the colorway 600, 500. Yeah. Viking Alpaca Storm in the colorway 500, which is the white, and I held it with mohair alternative, which is this Hannah by Permin, which is 50% merino, 30% silk, and 20% cashmere. I really do love this one. During the cold weather, this is very soft, but it gets very itchy if I get too hot. And I do like the marling effect that this kind of has in the hat, because this is broken rib, and the knit stitch columns kind of gets mainly the white color, while the gray from this kind of sticks out in between, and it just makes the texture pop a bit more. I don't think it would have been as visible in just white, to be honest. I can try it on. I haven't tried it on in quite a while, but yeah, I think it looks quite cute. It is tiny bit too big on me, so I kind of like have to slouch it down a bit in the back to make it like sit cute. But this was one of the first hats I ever made, actually, and I really do like how tight it fits over my head, but it is a bit too long, and not long enough to actually fold the brim. That just looks silly, to be honest. And the crown is not something I'm super happy with in hindsight, but it was fun while I was doing it. I've spent a lot of time this year perfecting how to do the decreases in hats, which you will see later. But yeah, this was a hat for myself. I've actually used it quite a lot earlier this year. I like using this hat underneath my bike helmet in the winter, because the bike helmet kind of forces the hat even tighter to my head, and therefore I get more fabric over my ears, so there's no wind reaching my ears, which is kind of the point. So yeah, I can't have my hair up when I'm wearing this though, so really like this hat. Gotta put it away. Now I'm gonna do a tiny bit of cleaning up right here to remove the balls of yarn I have. Yeah. Now, the next project that I did was actually a shawl. I was very much inspired by a photo I saw of the Slippy V shawl by Westknits. Stephen West, yes. So, I do not own that pattern. I was just very inspired and I wanted to make those V-slip stitch pattern thing. And I decided, why not? I have no idea how he makes the rest of this pattern. But yeah. So this is a very, very big shawl. It was even bigger because I have actually accidentally felted it. So yeah, really big shawl. This one is made out of Double Sunday, the blue, and Viking Alpaca Storm, which is the turquoise color. I do not know the colorway of the turquoise. The turquoise was left over from... I was planning on making a frostgenser, and I had bought white yarn and turquoise yarn to make that sweater, and I never did. I think it was my first attempt of trying to make a sweater and then just deciding I didn't want to knit that sweater for some reason. And the yarn just stayed in a packet in the closet for so long that eventually I decided I was going to use some of the white to knit this hat, and I used some more of that white and this turquoise to make a different hat for a friend of mine, but that was last year. So then I started using the leftovers that were left over again for other things, like that hat and this one, this shawl. And this was very, very fun. I had seen some of Stephen West's tutorials on how to start I-cords on very small number of stitches. So I did that just for fun to try it out, and then I just knit out and out and out and out until I was like, okay, I want to do the slip stitch pattern. So I knit in the turquoise. I didn't want to do intarsia on both sides, and so I ended up making this stripe here, which afterwards I realized is actually the same thing Stephen West has done in his pattern. So that's probably where I got the idea. I just didn't know that's where I got the idea. And then I just knit this V pattern quite a long way. I am pretty certain that I have more rows between each V than he does, because my V's are quite shallow while his are more pronounced. So yeah. And I do not know what kind of rib pattern he has on the edge, but I did broken rib again, because I was quite into broken rib for quite a while. So a lot of things had broken rib. Most of those things I have at some point worn out and therefore no longer have. I am not the type of person that are like precious about my knits. I use them a lot, and when they are too worn out to be saved, they get tossed. That's just how it is. I'm not gonna keep them forever. Perhaps I will keep my sweaters forever, but that's just because I've never knit sweaters before. But yeah, I really like it. I even like the back. I usually use this as a scarf. I am not a shawl person, so I just do like this, and then I tie the ends underneath here so that it's secure while I'm biking, because that means I can get this quite tight around my face and still have my jacket over. So yeah, I am very warm when I'm using this, and this is also something that's really easy to take off because I get very warm while biking, at least when I'm doing biking uphill. So I want to be able to remove the scarf while biking, so I'm sure that I don't overheat. If I do, I will probably pass out because I'm having issues regulating my blood pressure, so yeah, very important not to get too hot. I really, really, really like this shawl. I will never knit it again. I did contemplate knitting a new one when I accidentally felt it this fall. And I didn't mention that in a podcast video. I even I brought out some of my yarn from stash, thinking I was gonna knit one in superwash so it wouldn't felt. And eventually I was just, what am I doing? I still use this. Why would I knit a new one? If I was gonna knit a new one, I will do something else because I like making my own patterns. And to be honest, this pattern was fun when I had gotten quite into the stitch pattern, but starting out it was a hassle. It was not fun. So yeah, I'm not gonna knit this again. But I do love it though, and I love the colors. So yeah, gonna get there. So yeah, after that, this shawl, the blue yarn, double Sunday yarn, was yarn I bought years and years ago because I was planning on knitting a baby blanket for my nephew. But then I realized that both my mom and my grandma were also knitting baby blankets, and they were knitting using superwash while I was planning on knitting it with double Sunday, and I realized knitting a baby blanket with double Sunday, not superwash yarn, would be a disservice to a new mom because she would be worried about ruining it, and I didn't want her to worry about that. And also, who needs 3 blankets for a baby? That's just too much. So I decided that I would just keep it for something else, but I spent a long time trying to figure out what to do. And eventually, because I had both that blue and purple, I decided I had a lot of the blue and some of the purple. Eventually I knit up this one, and then eventually I also knit up a pair of socks. A pair of socks in double Sunday, to be honest, was also a mistake, because also no nylon and it's super soft, so it pilled like crazy. But my god, those were good socks. So yeah, blue and purple socks in double Sunday. I don't think they lasted more than like 2 months, and then I had to toss them. Because not only were they super worn out, but I didn't have any more. I did have some more yarn that I could mend them, but I was also like, do I want to mend a pair of socks that often? I can just knit a new pair that's not in double Sunday. Double Sunday is not sock yarn. Do something better with it, like a shawl. Don't felt it. That was my mistake. Oh well. I really loved those socks. They were super soft, but not the appropriate use of that yarn. And that, I think, was now entering into spring. It was after we had moved into this fantastic apartment, and yeah, I started having like my own knitting space. Not this office, this is actually my office, but before I got in this shelf, all of my knitting supplies were in the living room. I did eventually decide that it wasn't fair to my husband to have that many knitting things in the living room when he hadn't started unpacking his own stuff yet, and he was planning on having everything in his office. So eventually I moved my stuff into my office to make the shared space more of a shared space. But yeah. After those blue and purple socks that you sadly will never see because I didn't even take photos, I did eventually knit some t-shirts. Actually no, I did make one pair of socks too before that, which I do have pictures of, so I will add a picture up here, which are the color palette socks. Now that I have downloaded the pattern, I actually followed it, and I made a pair of brown and green socks, which photo up here, and I made them out of Dale Alpaca Forte in the colorway brown and green, which are, I do have my notes here somewhere, not here. They're called 734 for the brown and 737 for the green, which is a color combination I liked so much I later made a new pair of socks, inspired by the color pooling socks, but that I'm now soon gonna launch. That's kind of fun. More on that later. But yeah, those pairs of socks, I love those. And they were also a tiny bit big for me, so my grandpa got them so that he would have a home pair for himself. Me and my grandpa has almost the same sock size, so it works out. So yeah, then we'll get into t-shirts, because now we're starting to get into spring, and it was in our new apartment too hot to knit winter wear during the summer. We have moved a lot and usually end up in kind of like basement apartments, and basement apartments are cool and chill throughout the entire summer, so I had no trouble sitting indoors and knitting winter wear, though it was too hot to wear, obviously. But yeah, coming to this new apartment, it's not chilly at all, and this summer was unusually hot for our climate, I guess. I guess we're not the only ones that have had that issue. But yeah, too hot to knit anything woolen, and I was desperate for knitting anything. Usually I can take a break from knitting in the summer, but this summer I was like, I need to knit. I want to knit. I have no idea what to do. So I went through my stash and I found some very, very, very old yarn that I probably gotten from my grandma, which I turned into this raglan t-shirt. And I'm gonna put it on a hanger. This t-shirt is made out of wool that's actually bought at a supermarket called Coop. So the yarn was just labeled Coop. I actually think I might have the tag here. Yeah, it's this one. Mjuk vårsøg. Vårsøg. It's ecological cotton, 100% cotton. And they recommend you can actually machine wash it, which I have been doing, but at relatively low temperatures, not super low, but low enough. And I have just been chucking this in the washer every time I use it. And I did a lot of experimenting with this one. Before I knit this one, I had never knit any type of sweater or t-shirt or anything. And I had also never knit anything in cotton. And I was a bit worried when I started that I might have knit or cast on too tight so I wouldn't get it over my head. That was not an issue, I discovered later. And I have been contemplating like adding a button or something to close this, but I actually find it quite cute with a casual like collar thing. And when it sits on me, it has a tendency to like straighten out more because the heating up my body kind of like makes this a lot softer. I did not depill this t-shirt before taking it out of the closet. You can see the fold lines. This is usually folded up, and I use it mostly during the summer, not the rest of the year, because for me this is a very casual t-shirt. It's not something I'm gonna wear under anything woolen. It is something I'm wearing with shorts, and I can see that I have more pills from other yarns here. But yeah, I'm actually very pleased with this. I never changed where this started around this, so you can actually see here there's a very light line where I've been trying to like hide where my beginning of round is. I mean, I don't really care. I ran out of the blue yarn, but I had quite a lot of the purple left, so I was like, I don't care, it's just gonna have purple at the bottom. And this has absolutely no finishes at all. They're just like cast off. And that actually works very well in 100% cotton because it barely rolls, and I can just pull it down a bit while it's drying, and that will just go away. It's not a problem at all. Also, I did some sort of short row shaping between the first two raglans in the back, and it got this very slight bump here. But it didn't quite solve the problem I was trying to solve. But this is such a casual t-shirt that, to be honest, I don't care at all. I love it. I did start with this, and you will see this detail come again and again. This yarn over raglan detail. I really liked it, but I was a bit worried that it would, I'm not a person that always is newly shaven, so I didn't want anyone to like see any armpit hair poking through. So yeah, but it's actually so wide that that's not a problem at all. Yeah, I really liked it. It's my very first t-shirt, and to be honest, it's super casual, and as you can see I had a striped moment because I also had a pair of striped socks, so I was very into stripes for quite a while. But yeah, this was my very first t-shirt, and I am very pleased with it. I'm gonna wear this a lot next summer. I hope the weather is just as nice. Crossing my fingers. So yeah, that was the first t-shirt I made. And then I bought some cotton yarn from Dale, which is not saffron, muscat. I bought Dale muscat, which is mercerized cotton, and I bought a lot of blue, green and yellow, and I just started knitting a blue one. I was planning on knitting one in each color in slightly different sizes, but at some point I realized that stockinette in the round was a bit boring when I did nothing else, so I made the stripes just to have it more fun. And I really do like this very casual stripe vibe thing. Also, this again, I did some short row shaping in the back, which, to be honest, I didn't necessarily do the best job, and it is kind of visible in cotton a lot more than in other yarns. But again, this is a very casual t-shirt, which I love. Oh, and I made some very cute details here at the top. Instead of just finishing it off like the other one, I did some pearl rows and knit rows one after the other to get this very cute tiny border, which I did do at the bottom too, the same amount, but at the sleeves I did half of those, just because I wanted to. Oh, there's a tiny piece of yarn that wants to escape, so I'm just gonna tuck that back. That kind of happens a lot with this because mercerized cotton is very slippery, so I would probably keep the ends a lot longer next time and weave them in more securely than I usually do, because when I'm knitting with wool it just kind of sticks together and it's not that important. But like, to be honest, I'm very pleased. I did a good job when it comes to fixing the holes under the underarms. This was before I realized that the reason why I kind of cast on a few extra stitches under the arms instead of just continue knitting is to have some more stitches to divide the holes that kind of eventually end up there, and you can kind of easier disguise it. Instead you get one big hole. So yeah, this one also has a lot of yarn from other objects on it. I haven't used it since summer because this is clearly a summer knit, and I actually really did like one thing about this garment. It looks tightly knit, so it is not see-through at all, but the slightest breeze gets through everything. So on super hot days when you're like thinking I'm gonna die, you actually keep very cool with this one. I would not use this on a windy day because that was actually not comfortable at all. It felt like I wasn't wearing clothing. So yeah, won't do that mistake again. And this is also raglan. I did a lot of raglan in the beginning, but this time I did a different type of increases. Yeah. So that's the second t-shirt I made. And then, this is the last one. This t-shirt is also made out of drops muscat. And here you can see this raglan detail again. And on this t-shirt there's no back shaping. It's completely the same in the front and the back, but I do still have a back because I tried to do a way of disguising where the beginning of round was, but also chocolate stripe thing, which did not work, to be honest. I think it would have worked a lot better in a different yarn, not cotton. It sticks out even more at camera than it does in real life. But a lot of people comment that they actually find that endearing. I have another loose strand here I'm just gonna fix. And yeah, I don't mind. It is a casual t-shirt. It has the same properties as the other one, but this one is obviously green and yellow instead, and I striped it all over with green around the collar. Come on, there you go. And yellow at the hem and the cuffs, I guess. Short sleeved, it's a t-shirt, super casual vibes. Also used a lot during the summer. Every time I wash it in the machine, I have to look over it to see where the ends have decided to crawl out and just tuck them back in. But I don't mind that. That's just one of the facts of having like hand knit things is I won't even call it repairs necessarily, but just just a slight thing you have to fix once in a while. Is that a big thing? I mean, you made it, so why wouldn't you take the time to like tuck the ends back in so they're not visible? Oh, there's another one. I find them all over today. Come on, in with you. All the way. I'm sorry for doing this while you're here trying to see all the things I've knit this year, but I can't help myself. If I see them, I have to do it. So yeah, that's the third t-shirt I made this year and the last one that I made in 100% cotton. All of these are 100% cotton, these t-shirts, but they are different yarns. Yep, that's that. Now, this amount of sweaters inspired me to start knitting more sweaters. And I did start a sweater before this one, but this one was the first one that got done. This is my double Sunday sweater. And again, we have these raglan details with yarn overs. And this is a sweater I really, really do love, mostly because it was my first one. And a first self-drafted one, so. I did learn a lot with this one. For one thing, I learned that sweaters have a tendency to grow, so this turned out a lot bigger than I expected. And this is the leftover blue from that one, the shawl. And the purple was the leftover from the blanket I never made. And funnily enough, it turned out a lot more than I thought. So I was thinking I was just gonna knit until I had no more and maybe the sleeves would be cropped and all of that, but no. It's super big. They're folded collar, hem, sleeves, all of it, but they're a bit short. And earlier this year I was talking about all the things I was gonna fix with my knits, but I have actually redecided. I was planning on ripping out the collar, ripping out the sleeve cuffs, tightening the sleeve cuffs, and knitting with the purple first and then switch to the blue, so I got a thicker amount of blue on the cuffs, but since I would also cinch them in, I would still have more blue left over, that I could do the same with the collar and also with the hem at the bottom here. But if I was gonna do those fixes, I would also change the amount of decreases I did on the sleeves, which were clearly not enough. And I would also make the body cinch in a bit at the bottom to make the hem cinch in a bit. And after thinking about all of that, I was like, I could just knit this again. This was just the first version, And now I know some of the mistakes that I do while knitting sweaters. I have lived and I have learned. And since I did this without following any pattern, I just basically did the same formula as I did with the t-shirts. Of course it turned out a bit big because all my t-shirts turned out a bit big because I wanted casual t-shirts. So, yeah. Also, I did really enjoy the way... Okay, I'm gonna take it off again and show you the other arm. Because the two raglans in the front and the back meet under the arm, and you have this very nice V detail with the raglan holes. And the thinking was, since... Oh, sorry. I always get fuzz in my nose when I'm doing like the woolen things. Give me a moment. Oh, I do not understand why. Oh. It's just wool. Why am I always doing this? Okay. But yeah. My thinking was 100% wool. I didn't use any mohair because I'm still on the fence when it comes to mohair. I feel mohair is itchy, but I think perhaps I have changed my mind. I used to be very, very, very sensitive to wool, and even this sweater was a bit itchy. But and this is double Sunday. And double Sunday is super soft, it's 100% merino. I think perhaps my issue was not that the things were itchy, but rather that I was too warm. And if you're too warm when you're wearing wool, obviously you're gonna sweat a bit, but also the hairs of the wool will like stand off the thread, and therefore also feel more itchy, because the wool is self-regulating, so you know, that's what it does. I did some short row shaping in the back for this one too, very slightly, that's why the neck is slightly raised. I'm still, at this point I was still not quite sure how to do short row shaping in the back to make it look good, and this was not the way. And also I did bind off the inside too tight here in the back, so it does this very weird cinched in thing, which is very easy to see when I do this. It kind of like, it has a bump in the back. But to be honest, this was my first sweater, I don't care. I'm still gonna use it mostly at home as a casual sweater. I haven't used it as much after we got some happy hoodies. My husband bought me and him matching happy hoodies, which are like super oversized, cozy sweaters, I guess, with like there's a lining inside that's very soft, and it is surprisingly warm, so I often have to take it off when I'm sitting on the sofa knitting because I get too hot. But yeah, so those are what we're using during the winter when we're at home. So this that I was planning on using as a cozy home sweater might not get as much use as I was thinking, because it kind of requires a slightly bit more effort than just tossing on the happy hoodie. But casual at home might also be with guests, and during the winter it's always nice to put on a casual sweater. These are not my colors, I must say. This year I have learned a lot with when it comes to color and things like that, but I haven't put it into practice until like very recently. So none of my knits are colors that actually suit me very well. As you can see, this washes me out a bit, and so does this, but I've tried to wear a black t-shirt underneath to like not get too washed out. And also my hair is not cooperating today. Sorry, I have this weird way my hair lays hair at the top. Nobody knows. Anyway, my very first sweater. I'm very pleased. I'm not going to do any of the changes I was planning on doing. I would rather just knit a new sweater. Not in stockinette though. I am very bored with stockinettes. So yeah, some kind of texture. I'm knitting a cabled sweater right now, so you'll see that if you come back for a podcast on Saturday. Just so you know. Incentive to come back. So yeah, that's my very, very first sweater. Now, I did, for some reason, knit a sweater during the summer. Early summer. I think it was the spring. So perhaps it was the very short period where we had a tiny bit of a cold spell. And then it suddenly changed back to super hot. Because the next thing I knit was a cardigan. But I started in the spring. This, you might have seen before, is my very pretty lace cardigan, where I have removed the buttons but not put on new ones because the last buttons were just way too heavy. The whole front kind of like sagged and I did not like how it looked at all. This one is made out of Viking garn bamboo in the colorway 600, I'm pretty certain. I'm gonna try and put this on the hanger and see if I can make it look pretty. Probably not. I'm surprised at how heavy bamboo actually is. Not when you're wearing it, but putting it on a hanger, it kind of wants to drag down. I'm gonna do this just to make sure it keeps itself closed here at the top, so it doesn't slip off. So yeah, I love this one. It is very pretty. We have a special dress code during summer when it comes to our choir, and it's supposed to be like white and grey and beige, and I do not like grey or beige, so I knit this one to have over the one beige thing I have, so I would feel less washed out. So yeah, this is a pattern that I have adapted, the stitch pattern I mean, from the Japanese Stitch Bible, and this will become a pattern that's available at some point for sale at Ravelry. I just don't know quite when yet. Probably not until spring, because I'm in a bit of a time crunch to get other patterns out. I have only at the moment one pattern available, but if you're interested, you can go to my Ravelry page. I will link it in the description, but it might be a bit difficult to find. But my name will be there, you can find it on Ravelry. So yeah, I really do love this very casual but still very stylish cardigan. Because it looks so complicated, but the pattern was actually super easy to memorize, and it was very logical when you were supposed to do stuff. So the only thing I'm having issues with right now is writing up the pattern so I can release it, because I want to make it easy and consistent and easy to follow. And as you can see, not necessarily the most easy thing to explain. But I really do like it. I do have some pearl stitches, maybe seed stitches, moss stitch on the button band. I am a bit confused about the terms in English, that's why I'm not 100% sure if this is moss stitch or pearl stitch or seed stitch. But I will figure out the correct name when I do write up the pattern. in my language is pärlestrikk, so yeah. And they were super easy to do the buttonholes, in my opinion. And the yarn, because it's bamboo, I think it's 50% bamboo, 50% cotton. Or was it 100? No, it's not 100% bamboo. That would be ridiculous, I think. Let me see. %50 bamboo, 50% cotton. But yeah, this was the very first cardigan I knit, and I really did enjoy knitting this. I do not have any issues with just purling in the back, which I'm pretty certain is exactly what I did. It just meant I had a break from thinking. So, yeah. I would perhaps add an I-cord or some other finishes to the top, or perhaps just knit a few more rounds before starting the pattern, because the pattern at the top kind of wants to pull out, so it's more pronounced at the top than in the middle. Now I'm showing you the inside. So yeah, you can see they're very clear leaves, but very clear lines. While here at the top, they suddenly look more organic, I guess, because it kind of wants to bend out of shape. And again, these are the yarn over detail that I was kind of obsessed with at that point. And also that slight point under the arms before continuing with the body and also continuing with the arm. So yeah, very easy knit. I do need to find new buttons. I haven't found any ones I have liked yet, but then again I won't use this cardigan until the summer, so it hasn't been the biggest issue. Also, for some reason, this yarn doesn't worm its way out at all. It just stays in place. Love it. It's a tiny bit splitty, but I haven't had any issues with that either, so. I just know my sister had a lot of issues with it being a bit slippy, or splitty, so yeah. Okay, then I have another pair of socks that are no longer with us. I think my grandma actually got these ones. Pink and purple socks. Also knit up in this pink. Mrs. Fox Glitter Merino on the hem, or like the cuff and the heel and the toe. And the other one is Colorwork, which is a pair of socks that I'm now knitting. I do not have the yarn in front of me because I left it in the living room. That's a very cold purple. And the two of them together actually clashes a bit, but that's kind of what makes it this exciting. So yeah. Another pair of socks that I no longer have. And I don't even have pictures of, I think. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. I knit those up on 2.5mm needles, and those turned out a tiny bit too big, so I think I gave them to my grandma or my mom. One of them have them. The other one has the other pair, the pink one. But yeah. I think that's kind of contributing to why I now have found the perfect size to knit my socks, but I no longer enjoy knitting socks because I went from 3 to 2.5 to now 2mm needles, and 2mm needles are not enjoyable for me. So I'm gonna go back to probably 2.5 or perhaps even 3 on normal sock yarn, but really reduce the amount of stitches to make sure I actually finish a pair. Because I did start a pair in September. And I haven't gotten them half done again, even. I am through the heel, but only barely. So yeah, those socks I should have been done by now, but it's just not been enjoyable. Anyway, I gotta continue because if we don't, we'll never get through. Next one is the first pattern I knit that's actually a pattern. Most of the things I knit, actually everything I knit here, are just taken from my own head, which is why sometimes the outcome is not what I want, like with this sweater. So I decided I wanted a Colorwork sweater, I wanted to use up some of my leftover yarns, and I wanted to make sure it actually turned out the way I wanted. So this is my Seascape sweater. It's by Andrea Yitman, and I have knit this in 5 different yarns. Also, I knit the size 2 to get the size 4 because this yarn is a lot thicker than the yarn she recommends. So yeah, this very top grey here are the leftovers from the grey pair of socks that I showed earlier. Unsure what type of yarn it is, but at this point when I knit this, I was a bit worried that it would be too itchy to use, and in the beginning it was, because it was hot. So doing the superwash or perhaps even acrylic grey yarn at the top was strategic to avoid any itching at my throat. I also did that yarn here at the cuffs. So yeah, that's the first yarn. Then this is Fogen garn, I'm pretty certain, I'm gonna check, which is hand dyed yarn from Nea Ullspinneri. Come on, where's the tag? Yep. Fungen, the green and the red. 2 different yarns clearly, but it's the same base, but dyed differently. They do not have color names or numbers. It was just green and red. Very easy. Then the rest of the grey here and this white is Rauma 3-tråds garn. The white is the colorway 101 and the grey is 104. These are not the exact same thickness, but they're close enough. And eventually I think I ran out of the grey, or was so close to running out of the grey that I decided that I would use the rest of the green for as long a hem as I could get. I could not get the hem as long as in the pattern because it actually has a very nice cabled motif, but it needed to be like twice as long as this to have that motif, so I skipped it. So that's just, I think it's twisted rib. Yeah, twisted rib. First time I knit this, I knit it in the size 4 and it turned out huge because the yarn was not the same gauge, obviously. And then I just used the swatch, or the top of the sweater that I had knit as far, as a swatch to figure out the gauge difference, and then calculated that if I knit the size 2 I would get the same size that I wanted, which was good. I did some few changes in the pattern though. As you can see here, there are short rows in the back. The short rows in the pattern are not aligned with where you're supposed to split with the arms, but I didn't notice until I had knit most of the body. And that's why I decided I would just pick up the collar and the short rows and knit them from the bottom up to fix the problem. Which actually worked out quite well. I'm very surprised. That worked out a lot better than I feared. That's not something new. The blue and green t-shirt is also something where I wasn't quite happy with the colors, so I picked it up and re-knit it, even though everything here is knit top down. The other thing I did with this pattern is on the rows where you're supposed to increase, sometimes those rows between the red and the green stripes have 4 and sometimes they have 5 rows. And I just changed that to all have 5 rows in between, because I thought that would be less noticeable. I didn't think that the increases would cinch it in enough that it warranted the rest of them to have 4. It just didn't make sense to me. So, or maybe even the other way around. I don't remember. It's a long time since I knit this one now. I do really enjoy the color effect when you see that the grey here makes the red pop, but the white makes the green pop. I really do like that. I did have some color bleeding on the white, but mostly in the back, so I think it was because of the way it was laying to dry, but it doesn't actually show up on camera, so that's nice. And other than that, I did use the recommended needle size, I'm pretty certain. Maybe I went up a size in needles. I do have my notes here somewhere. No, I don't have the notes on the Seascape cardigan. No, sweater. I keep saying cardigan. But I will have information about the pattern here at the bottom. I have it saved on my computer for the other times when I'm mentioning this on the podcast. Anything else about this pattern? I mean, this is the sweater that has convinced me that I am no longer sensitive to wool, because I really do love wearing this one a lot. I did wear it a lot in November and December, and people were like, "Ooh, is that a Christmas sweater?" And I'm like, kind of. I mean, I can wear it all year and nobody would think twice, but the colors do kind of make it seem more Christmassy when Christmas comes around. And yeah, it is relatively short. The pattern is short. This is the amount of length you have before the ribbing, but the ribbing would have been twice as long. And the arms are 3/4 lengths, so they are actually, they're supposed to be this length. And I enjoy wearing it. I just have to wear a black t-shirt with black pants when I'm wearing this one, so that I don't get cut in 3 because I'm very short. So wearing this one makes me look taller because the trousers look taller, so it looks like I have legs for miles. I love it. So yeah, I really love this one. It was a joy to knit. I would have marked either the front center or the back center when I started this, had I known the problems I would end up with. But I don't think it's a big problem. I mean, if you notice it before you split for sleeves, you would just change where you split. It wouldn't have been a big problem. But I didn't. So I just changed the color because I couldn't be bothered to go back. Also, I'm very happy I used 100% wool for most of this. Rauma is 100% Norwegian wool, while Fungen is 30% spærsau and 70% norsk hvitsauull, which means basically it's also 100% Norwegian wool, but from 2 different brands of wool? No. 2 different types of sheep, I guess. Brand is not the right word, but I do not remember the word in English. I'm sorry. But yeah, and not superwash or anything. So yeah, I really enjoyed knitting this. I'm enjoying wearing it. I would knit it again, except I almost never knit anything again unless I'm knitting my own pattern and improving it, and therefore changing it. And I see no reason to change anything more with this pattern. It is super, super nice. The small changes I did to the pattern, I would have done anyway. So, yeah. If I had any more of the grey wool, I would have knit the body longer, or not necessarily the body, but the hem at least, and done that very nice cabled detail thing that sadly this one does not have. But Colorwork and cables in the same sweater, I would never have thought to do that until I saw that pattern, and I'm like, wow, I like it. Like your style. So yeah. One of my favorite sweaters this year. It was also very nice to have a pattern where I didn't have to think a lot. I looked at the chart and the knit, and then after a few rounds I didn't even look at the chart, I just looked at what I had done previously. And like, yeah, I loved it. Super nice. Also, the only round yoke sweater I have this year, or actually the only round yoke sweater I've ever knit, and I really did enjoy that. So I might knit a round yoke sweater later if I want to do more stranded color work. Yeah, I liked also the fact that it was striped, but not normal stripes. It was stripes, but with colorwork things. So yeah. Okay, that was that. Then I knit that actually in one of the warmest weeks of the summer. But I just couldn't help myself because I was so bored with cotton and bamboo yarn. I really wanted something more rustic, and that was just... It was a joy, but I could only knit it in the morning, so as soon as not even lunchtime, I had to put it away and take something cotton or bamboo instead. I even tried knitting with... you can't see it, but there's some pink yarn up here. That's also 100% cotton, but a different... I think that's more like a tube than spun, but it didn't work out, so... I had a lot of projects that didn't work out this year, and no one will ever see the light of day, which is sad. That's just how it is. Okay, next one. I was still in love with the stitch pattern from the white cardigan, so I decided to knit myself a singlet. And this one I will make changes to. I was very happy when it was done. Before I was done with this one, I was actually getting bored of the stitch pattern, which, I mean, I should have seen that coming, but I wasn't quite done with the stitch pattern when I was done with the cardigan, so I did some more. There are two things I'm going to change, both of them having to do with this straps, I guess. I wanted the straps to be in the leaf pattern because I really enjoyed it. The problem is, it doesn't matter how much I try to block this, it doesn't lay flat, it curls, it doesn't want to look cute. So I'm going to change that to like parallel stitch instead, the one that is on the button band here. And I'm gonna shorten them to half, because when I'm wearing this, it is super low, super low, and it's a lot lower than it needs to be. It would have been a bit too tight if I had skipped the strap altogether, but I realized afterwards that if I had just used half, it would sit so much better. Which is why I'm planning on, in 2025, doing a fix it February probably, because I don't think I have the time in January, and just take those straps, have them, and doing them in moss stitch instead. Maybe even shorter than just half, because I think half will still be like very deep, but also I think it will be a lot more sturdy, because at the moment they are very stretchy, a lot more stretchy than I want them to be. And I have a lot of this yarn left over. I think I have enough to knit a perfectly fine sized t-shirt more, so there's not an issue of not having enough yarn at least. Maybe I should make a white t-shirt in the same style as this one. Though I don't think I would... Then again, I have singlet. maybe. I'll have to think about that. That just hit me right now, so more thinking. This is gonna be a pattern eventually too. That's why I'm fixing these straps, because this is gonna be my sample. I'm gonna have to knit another sample too though, because not everyone wants a white singlet, especially in the heat of the summer. So, yes. That's that. Now, is actually my favorite project. Well, that's not true, I'd say that about all of them. But this is the pair of socks that kind of looks like the ones that I gave to my grandpa. They're the same yarn, and they are also inspired by the color palette socks by Laura. Forgot the last name again. It's something M-O-O, but I don't remember the rest. But it's gonna be information about that down here when I talk about the first pair. These ones started as inspiration by the color palette socks, but I've done a ton of changes, and I also graded the pattern, and since the color palette socks are a free pattern, I decided I've done enough work on it to kind of qualify them as my own pattern. Because of all the changes I did to both the heel and the toes. And when I graded them, I have changed the amount of rows and all of that to make the length better, and also I'm pretty certain that there are more color stripes on the foot and the leg in the color palette socks, because you're supposed to knit them with thinner sock yarn. This sock yarn is made to be knit up on 3mm needles. These socks are going to be probably the smallest size. I think it is the smallest size. They are 56 stitch pattern. I am knitting up a second sample for these socks in 72 stitches, which is the third size. These socks are a pattern that's actually coming out this weekend. And I have been thinking a lot about the socks, but the name of the socks. And I had a lot of working names, but I think I'm gonna go with Under the Oak socks, because this looks like the summer version, and the version I'm knitting up for my sister-in-law that you can see this weekend at the podcast this weekend if you want to. It's gonna be episode 13, I think. 12 or 13. And they are knit in brown and red instead. And I really do enjoy this pattern. It's compared to the slog it's been trying to knit the other purple pair, which are on 2mm needles. These ones have like flown off. And the pair I'm knitting now, I started right after Christmas, and I am already so much further than I was in a week with the other sock pattern. And those are just vanilla socks, so I don't know, maybe I just don't like vanilla socks anymore. Anyway, I really do love this. They have some twisted rib details, they have twisted rib in the short row heel, no, not short row heel, the slip stitch heel, and also on the toes, and I really had to figure out how to do the pattern in the toes to make them look good. And I do apologize, these socks are well worn. I did depill them, but to be honest, they are not easy to depill. But then again, look how nice this yarn is. This yarn, these socks, they still look so much better than any other pair of socks I have. And yeah, I think that's perhaps because they have nylon in them. This is Dale yarn Alpaca Forte, which is 20% nylon, I think. 20% nylon, and the rest is actually alpaca. And I haven't had alpaca socks before, and this has just become my absolute favorite commercial sock yarn. And yeah, I love it. So that's that pair. That's actually a pair I'm now gonna put on because my feet are cold. So yeah, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to look at me putting on my socks. I'm not gonna show my feet though. So yeah, I really do love those socks. Now, that sock pattern is coming out this weekend. Will be available on Ravelry. I will now then have 2 patterns available on my Ravelry. And I am very, very, very excited. So yeah. Okay, I don't have a lot of projects more. That's not true actually. My pile here is getting low, but I have a pile over on the table and I've been talking for ages. So, sorry about that. But okay, here's my very favorite t-shirts. It is my black tee. I haven't figured out a better name for it yet, but I have to figure it out eventually. It's knit up in untold yarn, in the colorway Jet Black. And it has also yarn over raglan details, but these ones, I'm gonna see if I could show the back. Oh, it's also peeling a lot. Those are like this, which I really do enjoy. And also it has a v-neck, which I don't know how easy it is to see on the black. So yeah. And it has I-cord around the neck, but it has ribbing on the arms and the bottom. And this one is a lot more fitted than the other t-shirts. When I wear this one, it is... I still have some positive ease, but not a lot. And I did tighten up the I-cord a lot more than perhaps I should have during around the neck. I picked up every other stitch instead of every 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 3 stitches you should kind of do. So when I do wash this, you can see it puckering a tiny bit around the neckline, but that disappears as soon as I'm wearing it. I wanted to raise the neckline because I did enjoy the fact that it was quite low as a casual t-shirt, but when I decided I wanted to use this t-shirt as a part of my choir outfit, I needed something that was more appropriate to wear on stage, I guess, or at least something I would be more comfortable wearing on stage in front of a lot of people. I didn't want my cleavage to be the center stage thing when I'm supposed to be one of many in a choir. So yeah, I really do enjoy this. I love it. This black is the blackest black I've ever seen on a cotton merino blend. It's 50% of each, I think. No, it's 53% extra fine merino wool and 47% cotton. And I was a bit worried when I started knitting this, thinking I couldn't have wool right next to my skin. But this has not been an issue at all. And I think it's not just because I'm now less sensitive to wool. I think also it's because I've changed the way I wash my wool knits. I rinse them out a lot now. Before I put in the wool wash in the water and I rinse it out like once or twice afterwards. And now I'm rinsing it so much that barely no wool wash left. Even though the wool wash is also like super allergen friendly and all of that, I just think having too much wool wash left in the clothing are just making me itch. And I do know that I am sensitive to quite a lot of different washing detergents, I guess is the right word. I'm sorry, I'm having a tiny bit of skin that's kind of like trying to escape my finger and it gets stuck on all the knits, so I'm just gonna try and pull that off. Yeah. I'm probably gonna have to moisturize my hands more. Anyway, this t-shirt is my absolutely favorite t-shirt and probably my most worn knit all year, because the very simple fact that I wear it underneath the Seascape sweater, that one, all the time. Because I can't have that one right next to skin. That's too rustic of a wool, but it's still very nice. And this one is so black that it goes into one with my pants. And that's exactly what I wanted. And I also used this during all our winter concerts. And I used this underneath almost all other knit thing I having. I would have worn it under this one, except, you know, the video I was gonna film today. So I have a cotton t-shirt under here. Very casual cotton t-shirt. And yeah. The only thing I don't wear this one underneath is the one thing I'm gonna show you later. The last one. No, it's not the last one, but the last sweater. So yeah, this very, very last t-shirt. And I'm gonna release this pattern too because I'm so happy with it. And I'm gonna knit like a million more when the summer comes around. And I'm not knitting any more sweaters or socks. So yeah, I love this one. I love this one to death. And the yarn is super, super, super nice. So yeah, love it. As you can probably see. Yeah. Now it's my last sweater. And this is a sweater that I started relatively early. I remember bringing it to an outdoors concert in the summer. I do not have the exact date that it started. I hadn't started tracking those kind of things yet when I did that. So all I know is that I got this one done in November. And this is my very, very, very favorite self-made pattern this year. I am gonna release this one too, but not yet. It's not it might be the next thing that gets released, because I'm now knitting a second sample of this. It's an all-over cable sweater with moss stitch panels on either side of the front and back knit panel, and with very nice raglan increases on either side of this cable. And yeah, this I will also make changes to. I know I said my very favorite, but after wearing this one, I have learned a few things about myself. I have learned that, for one thing, I wish it was a bit bigger, but also I wish the collar was tighter, the cuffs were tighter, and the hem didn't flare, which also means tighter. Which is things I'm gonna fix, because this is my first sample for that sweater pattern. So I am gonna fix those things, because I didn't know I wanted to fix those things until now. And I will probably do that during Fix It February, but probably earlier. Because I need to figure out what pattern I'm gonna release in February. If I'm gonna release a pattern in February. I mean, I'm not a knitwear designer in the sense that this is what I'm living off, so I don't have to release a pattern every month. But I did release one in the beginning of December. Those are a pattern I'm gonna show you later. And I'm planning on releasing one now, this week, in the beginning of January. And it would be fun to release this in the beginning of February, so people would still have time to knit it before the weather turned. But perhaps I will instead save this for a fall pattern, so that people will have more time to knit it and wear it during next winter. Perhaps. I do not know yet. But I really, 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 really do love this pattern. And I love the yarn, because this yarn is lysegrønn merino in the colorway Mars. I say that a lot, and for some reason now I'm started stumbling, probably because I'm getting really tired. But yeah, I'm gonna fix the collar, I'm gonna fix the cuffs, I'm gonna fix the hem. I have a lot more yarn left over. I have this yarn left over from the last time I ripped out the collar and all of that. I had to wash it to get out all the noodly things and make it look presentable again. which makes it a lot easier now when I do want to fix the collar. I can just rip out this one and wash the yarn and start using this while this is drying. That's the plan, at least. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to releasing this pattern, but I do not know when. And also, this is a raglan. As you can understand, I've had a little bit of an obsession with raglans this year. I have started 2 different constructions onto other sweaters, 3 other sweaters, but they are not finished yet. They took a lot longer than I anticipated, and 2 of them are stockinette projects, which, to be honest, right now, for me is super boring. So I will only be knitting on those when I need a break. Though, thinking about it, I might do some changes to the plans I've made and bring one of them out of hibernation earlier. So I will have more time to knit on it and also release it earlier, perhaps. It would be nice. Okay. That's a lot of thinking. That's the last sweater. I really enjoyed this one. I realized I probably blocked out the body a lot with this one, so it's probably a size smaller than I intended, which is why I'm now knitting a bigger size. And I'm also going to try and make sure that one doesn't get blocked out the same way as this one, because you can see that the top cables here are a bit stretched out, which I want to cinch in with a different color, and also that the cables and stuff on my arms are less stretched out than the cables on the body. Most likely because I knitted a size too small. I split for the sleeves too early on this one. But yeah, I know I probably did that because I still have yarn left over, and I wasn't planning on having any yarn left over, so yeah. Okay, putting it away. I love that sweater. Okay, now I have 5 or 9 more things to show you, depending on how you're counting it, I guess. Because I have a lot of hats. This year was my big hat year, or at least the winter was, the last part of the year. Because I released a pattern in the beginning of December that was a hat pattern. And that hat pattern turned into this. This is my first hiking hat. This one is still not been blocked. I've just kept using it because I'm loving it so much. And I made 8 of these. Which sounds insane. But yeah, I started with this green one, which is knit up in the color Deep Petrol. And when I was done with this one, I used it a lot, and I did knit this I think like 3 times before I was happy with the fit. To get like the crown the way I wanted. I really do like the stripe detail. It goes from one side to the other. And this one is so much worn that I think I have like stretched it out all the way. And I use this also a lot when I'm biking because it keeps my ears warm. So yeah, this was the first one I knit, and I knit it in the second size. So yeah, this is the size medium. This blue one was the last, was not the second one I knit. I knit this black one for my husband. And this was a learning process because I learned that I probably like my hats a lot more loose than normal people. So everyone I was talking to was like, if I had measured this hat size and their heads, and I was like, this green one should fit you perfectly, and they were like, no, it's too big. And I measured my husband, and I knit him a hat, and I was like, this has the exact amount of ease that I want my hat to have on your head. So I put it on him, and he was like, no, it's too big, it's too loose. He didn't want it. So I stole it back and I'm using it every time I have my hair up in a bun because I can still cover my ears then. It's very loose, of course, because it's a lot too big for me. Me and my husband does not have the same head size. So this is the largest size, then this is the extra large. Then I knit a new hat for my husband. This one, which is the new appropriate size for his head. And he still thinks it's too loose, but I figured that's probably because he really wants his hats even tighter. Because he was like, he wanted even less negative ease, and this one was already like, in my opinion, super tight on him. But he said that every time he shook his head, it kind of like slipped up, and I was sitting there like, I don't think making it tighter would solve that issue. I think actually that would make it worse. But okay, so this is the hat that I have knit him, that he uses sometimes, but not his preferred hat. But that's fine. I'm gonna have to make him a new one at some point that's even tighter. And then, just because it was almost time to release the pattern, I decided I wanted a sample in every size, so I knit the smallest one. That's the blue one. And I knit it, and I put it on, and I loved it, and I haven't had a chance to block it, because I'm wearing it every day. So, I'm probably gonna have to block it, like, when at the end of winter, when I'm packing all the things away, instead of now, because I'm using it every day. So, I really do like the way it fits. It's very nice, very soft. This is also double. Everything of this is double Sunday. The green is deep petroleum, the black is just called black, the red is deep red, and the blue is electric blue. And then Christmas was right around the corner, and I was like, I used to make a pair of socks for my dad every year, or at least buy him a pair of socks before I started knitting socks. And also give him some marzipan for Christmas. And I used to put the marzipan inside of the socks and hide them. And this year I knew I couldn't do that. Not that I couldn't knit him socks, but he have had a lot of mobility issues and are no longer able to put on his socks by himself. And also when you have mobility issues, you shouldn't have slippery socks on because it can lead to falls and stuff like that. So I was a bit bummed out, thinking that I couldn't keep up that tradition with my dad. But then I had a brilliant idea that, hey, I have just released a knitting pattern, and I love this fit of those hats, and I know my family very well. My grandma had already tried the blue one. My mom had tried the blue one. And I was like, I'm gonna knit everyone hats. And that was something I figured out the week before Christmas. That was like, oh shoot, do I even have time for this? So I knit 2 hats during the weekend, and like 1.5 day for each, because we went out shopping on Saturday before Christmas, and during that Saturday and Sunday, I knit 2 hats. I knit the hat for my mom, and I knit the hat for my dad. My mom got a pink one in the color Flamingo. That's a petite knit color. And my dad got a blue one that was in dazzling blue, which is a slightly softer blue than the electric blue, because this is very blue, and I knew my dad wanted something a slightly bit more muted, but still very clearly blue. And I had some those on this stash that I used for my grandma and granddad. My grandma got one in this purple color that's called Björnbergsoft, which is a very deep red purple color, which she really loves. And my grandpa, he really likes neutral colors when it comes to hats and sweaters and stuff. So I made him one in gråmelert, which is a grey-white-ish color. It is marled, which is why it's called gråmelert. So yeah, I knit 4 hats in a very short amount of time. One I did on I started out on Saturday and got it done on Sunday, and the other one I started on Sunday and got it done on Monday. And then I didn't have time to knit more until Tuesday, and I got that one done on Wednesday, and then I started the second one on Thursday and got that one done on Friday. Was really short time because on Friday my mom came over to exchange the gifts and then run away again. So it was not the Saturday before Christmas, but the Saturday before that again. But still, it took me less than a week to get all of those hats knit. None of them got blocked because obviously I didn't have time. But I did tell my mom and my grandma that they were unblocked and they could block them if they wanted to. And yeah. So suddenly 4 hats in a week. And that was exhausting, so I'm not gonna knit any more hats, except that of course I did. Because I knit a Santa hat. So yeah. A Colorwork Santa hat. I started this in October or November, I think, just to have something fun to knit, colorwork, and yeah, I just wanted something different. And I started knitting a very, very long tube with the red yarn. I was inspired by the Musselburgh hat, so I'd started with the crown and knit down, and then knit a really, really long tube in red, and then started doing the colorwork. And when I was done with the hat and I tried it on, and I realized that the brim would actually cover part of the colorwork if I was going to have it as tall as I wanted to. So I was planning on doing some sweater surgery. So I ripped out the crown of the hat and I started knitting straight up. And then eventually I realized I couldn't be bothered to knit a hat again. So eventually I just knit it down to the inside of the hat and folded it, so it is super long. And then I made a pom-pom and I added to it. So yeah, this is the Santa hat I knit, and this one was literally the last thing I knit this year because I got it done 2 days ago. So yeah, I got this done the 30th of December. I'm very happy with it. It's super cute. It is not as heavy as I was afraid it would be, which is good. And it's not as long as I was planning on making it, because I was planning on when I got into this snow, starry night part, I would slow down the decreases, but I was super done and I just wanted to get the hat done. And I'm not going to use it again until next year, so yeah. Also, I really do like the reindeer, but of course because of the way I'm wearing the hat, they will always be upside down. So, oh well. You live and you learn and all of that. Maybe I can do this instead, and then the reindeer in the back will at least be the right side. But yeah, if I'm ever gonna knit this again, I will actually omit the reindeer altogether. Just knit this part and the Starry Night part, and then have fun. I would also change the way I did the decreases, because I didn't actually think too much about it. I just decreased on one side, but of course that means that the decreases are now spiraling all around the hat. So yeah, wouldn't do that again. But also, I don't care, to be honest. I think I did a very good job when it comes to the color work. It got better and better the longer I got. And 3-color work that I was doing here actually turned out quite nice. There is some puckering down here, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. I might block this next year. I might not. I'm gonna put this in the same box that we put all the Christmas ornaments in, but I won't do that until after the weekend, because I got this one done after the last podcast and I want to show it before I pack it away for the year. So yeah, this was the very, very last thing I knit in 2024. And that now concludes all the 27 things I knit. So yeah, I don't expect to knit this much next year. I didn't expect to have given away so many things either, because I've given away 4 hats and 4 pairs of socks. So yeah, I did not expect to be giving away that many knits, to be honest. I even forgot a pair of socks before when I was writing everything down. I didn't remember until I saw a picture where I was like comparing the amount of yarn I had left after I was done with the pink pair, and then I had made a pink and purple pair, which I had completely forgotten about. And I was sitting there like, I have a lot. I have very small feet when I can get 3 pairs of socks out of 2 skeins of yarn. That's just silly. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to, one, have knit that much, or for that sake, given away that much. But yeah, good to know, I guess. I still have a lot of knits I now have to sort through. Actually, I have given away 1 more hat, because 2 more hats, because the red and the black one are technically my husband's. But since we live in the same place, I can just use them when I want to. So I keep counting them as my own, even though they're not mine. I'm not the main user of them. So yeah, technically I have given away 10 knits then, because I've given away the 4 hats for Christmas, 2 hats for my husband, and 4 pairs of socks, which is insane. Actually 5 pairs of socks, because the grey pair are also my grandpa's, they're just hair. So yeah, I'm gonna have to knit myself a pair of socks for me and keep them this time. Because or else I'm gonna end up in the same trouble I have previously, where I'll just wear out all the socks. No, actually 1 pair I didn't give away that I just wore out. So yeah, still 4 pairs of socks I've given away. Oh, math. Not so easy. Anyway, those are all my knits. I hope you have enjoyed this very long video. I might have time to make b-roll of the sweaters and t-shirts, but I highly doubt that. So if you want to see me wear them, you have to come to the podcast, the weekly podcast, and see what I'm wearing that day. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you like the video, and subscribe if you want to. And yeah, I hope to see you all this weekend for my regular podcasts. Bye!